Men who are abused by women, and tried to tell someone, what was it like? No one believes you at first. Still get highly aggressive PMs when I talk about it on Reddit. People insist I must have done something to deserve it. The worst part is they reversed the dynamic in their head and I've been made out to be a horrible abuser when I never lifted a finger. Meanwhile, I was getting hit on a pretty consistent basis and the emotional manipulation was extreme. That's the last bit of control they have. Controlling the narrative. They have accused me of so many terrible things because that's the final avenue left to accuse me. That's what abuse looks like in the end. The abuser burns it all down and then tells everyone that they had no choice and to stay away from the only person who can dispute the facts. I was 15, sexually abused by my manager at my first job, one of the biggest fast food joints, not once, but 4 times. Someone spotted the abuse and reported it to corporate and she got a promotion. I quit and my father ignored it. Police said the company handled it. Men who are abused are ignored, because it's not supposed to be possible. People were shocked but believed me. Some paid me out, but only because we are blokes and that's how we deal with things. Deep down everyone has supported me. Manipulated by her, and thank God my friends and her friends believed me. They shunned her for it. Now that I'm no longer living where it happened, I don't talk about it. Instead, I just listen to others who might be going through the same thing and believe them. It's always, just sit down and talk with them. Never works, and especially since it's the whole, mother being disciplinary, spiel, it's automatically invalidated. Gaslighting, emotional abuse, the works. I can't do anything about it. Life goes on. I was told by the police that they wouldn't press charges because she said it didn't happen. I was mostly emotionally, mentally abused by her, but she also hit me, threw stuff at me a few times. I used to keep quiet about it when I was in a relationship with her, out of some asinine obligated feeling of trust and privacy towards her, but when we broke up a few months ago it all just flooded out. Telling other people about the facts that had transpired back then really opened my eyes to how horribly she treated me for a big part of the relationship. Luckily I have an amazing group of friends, so they were all understanding. Especially because they had seen her nasty side on a few occasions. Telling my family was a lot harder. They all had this image in their head of her being this perfect girlfriend for me. To her credit, she was perfectly able to act like it when either of our families were around. No matter what happened to you, no matter how big or small it may seem, try your best to find somebody to talk about it. For me, it helped me realize that she was abusive, that I do deserve better, and that I can do better. It's also just a relief in general to share your pains and burdens with people you love and trust. I have a friend who always showed up at the pub with bruises on his arms because she gets feisty when they argue. I later realized he was being abused, but he took it because he thought it was because she loved him that much. If the genders had been reversed, there wouldn't have been any doubt in my mind. But because he's a 6 feet plus guy, the first was sort of blind to it and laughed it off as a joke. I will always regret that. When I tried to talk to her about it, I got a lot of, "This is embarrassing, I don't want to hear this crap." So what I did was, I transposed all the body parts and sexes of my experience, and put it out there for all to read. It was very gratifying for everyone to tell me that as a man, doing what I had done, I should be in jail. Wouldn't say it was too abusive compared to others, but dealt with a lot of gaslighting. Oddly enough, the final straw was Valentine's Day, also her birthday, when I finally had enough. Not me, but a friend of mine. He told me the story. I was in disbelief and I couldn't understand why he would let a girl destroy him like that. I talked to him every day after he left the girl. He was very angry at himself and turned everything inward. Took over 6 months till he started to feel like himself. The girl took his money and then went around destroyed his reputation in every network, painting him as almost a rapist. I knew the full story and had evidence to back it up, but all women didn't care about what proof we had. They would be on her side and would ignore facts and evidence. It's like it doesn't exist. Spent years suffering mental torture, getting arrested for things I hadn't done, had my self-esteem picked away at until there was nothing left. The police ignored me and on one occasion disregarded solid proof to arrest me on her word that I had assaulted her. Been told that charging my ex for domestic abuse was not in the public interest. Long story short, I had a mental breakdown, almost cut my throat, punched my father, went to jail and lost access to my son. My torture lasted for over 10 years and 4 of those were after I left. Men of Reddit, take my advice. It is better to spend your life alone than with someone who manipulates, attacks and slowly tears you apart piece by piece, because even though domestic abuse law is written for all, it is 100% against you. Not my story, but a very close friend. She was an excellent liar and manipulator. She is a 5'2" white girl. My buddy is a 6'4" 300+ pound black guy, important later. A lot happened over the 8 years he dealt with her, but the final straw was she backed him into a corner, repeatedly hitting him. She eventually grabbed kitchen knife and attacked him with that. He blocked the knife and pushed her away from him so he could get outside. At that point she told him she knew she could get him to put his hands on her eventually. She called the police claiming to be the victim. When the police arrived, they arrested my friend even after he told the police he had recorded the entire fight with his phone. The police refused to watch the video because according to them, he was obviously guilty. Personally, I believe race and the fact he is a man played into why they arrested him. I bailed him out of jail 13 hours later. 3 weeks later he went to the prosecutor, and when the prosecutor watched the video, they immediately dropped all charges. My buddy thankfully has a new house, full custody of his 3 kids, and is far away from that woman. My mum threw a whole umbrella at me like a javelin when she found out I was watching porn. She broke like 2 ribs. Oof, probably need a serious tag on this one. Went well. She was banned from every place in my neighborhood and friends were supportive. Was about to move so I didn't bother with police. Horribly abused for years. Nobody noticed and mother when told years later doesn't understand and still talks to her and said everyone makes mistakes or grows. It hurts. I expected no one to really care much about it, maybe even joke about it. And there was a lot of that. People kind of laughed it off. I didn't use the word abused, I said I was hit and that my partner was acting manipulative. It was kind of, haha, slacking on the chores, eh? Or, forgot to take out the garbage. They kind of treated it like a wife humorously slapping her husband in a sitcom, and I kind of expected that. What I wasn't expecting is, while I did hear that a lot, there were also quite a few people who were not like that. A lot of people were pretty sympathetic. Even my friends who didn't act like women could even abuse men gave me a, sorry dude, that sucks, and other women who have been abused to seen their friends abuse men were very empathetic. There was also a lot of support online in certain men's rights groups, which, while I do not agree a lot of stuff that a lot of these groups say, I do think there is a lot of value in their calling out of abuse against men. I lost my virginity BC. A girl, who I had said no to, mounted up and rode me while I was passed out drunk. I woke up from what I thought was a wet dream finishing inside her with no protection. It messed with me pretty hard because I'd been trying to save my virginity for a serious girlfriend or someone other than just some girl I barely knew. Not to mention the fact that I had no idea if I was about to be an unwilling father. Thankfully that was not the case. My friends just kind of said, well, at least you got laid, right? I can't really blame them because it took a while, like years, for me to even realize that what happened was clearly rape. Wrapping our college-age heads around the fact a guy could get raped was tough, I guess. I also got sexually harassed by a pair of women at a job in college, and telling people about it was met with attempts to high-five me. Thankfully these things happened years ago and I do think men's voices in this regard are improving. I donate a rental home, when vacant, for abused spouses and children seeking shelter. A social worker cares for them and everything. LEFO quietly moves them from place to place, usually in the middle of the night. Once or twice a year they'll bring a male spouse in and you can tell these guys are utterly humiliated and defeated. Take them seriously. Their situation is not funny or to be taken lightly. They matter. I got a restraining order against my ex-GF after catching her on camera breaking into my apartment, destroying my place and stealing a bunch of stuff. My friends had told me for years how terrible she was. There were times when I knew she was absolutely being awful, but my feelings for her ran deep. The detective working my case was awesome. She was surprisingly supportive, telling me, "You don't deserve this," and, "We are going to make sure she doesn't get away with this." I told her I was going to court for a restraining order, and the detective went ahead and served her the order after she arrested her. Even told me how she took it all, giving me direct quotes and everything once the police had recovered some of my stuff. I never really spoke about the abuse I received. Mine mostly came in the form of gaslighting and being taken advantage of. The one time she gave me a black eye, people would ask what happened. I would say, "My wife hit me." And they would laugh or make some kind of witty remark. I look back at it all now and I still somehow feel it's my fault for being stupid and too eager to please instead of her being at fault. They make you blame yourself, always nitpicking at things that are trivial, even the smallest things that anyone would consider silly, so they use it against you. Even turn yourself away from friends and family so they isolate you, always making you feel like you have to say sorry for even their actions and make you feel insecure, but then reel you back in and then mess you up again. It's a vicious circle. They say things just to hurt you and use those. Maybe a child you have say things like, "They don't want to see you, neither do I. I wish you were dead. I can't stand you. You're just like your family." Everything is negative to them, considering to any normal person they wouldn't use things against you at all. The list is endless, tbh, many different forms and levels of abuse you really don't want to get involved with. Laughed at, mocked, put down. Even had video of her hitting, kicking, abusing me, and people just made fun of me and the situation even worse. It was not real to them. Laughed at mostly because of my size. I'm 6 feet 3 inches and have some mass. To me, most people couldn't understand how a girl could gain any power over me. I was taught not to hit girls, although it wasn't all physical abuse. Because of the nature of my job, as if I go to therapy or seek help, I could possibly get red flagged and lose my job. Not quite the same, but my virginity was taken while I was blackout drunk. Woke up to puke and realized I had a woman on top of me. When I told everyone what happened, I was getting congratulations and friends were happy about it for some reason. I didn't feel happy about it, and I'm 100% sure it was without protection, so that really sucked too. My friends played it off like it was a good thing, but I wish it could have happened differently. Could have ended up with a baby at 17 years old when I didn't even know what was going on. Another time, similar scenario. Had a birthday party. A girl who was not invited caught wind of it and came over. She, completely sober, arrived at the party, put me, blackout drunk, in her car and drove me home. She got me on the bed somehow and started kissing me and aggressively trying to take my pants off. I came back to reality after feeling her mustache prickles on my lip. Told her to get the fuck out of my house. My friends thought this was hilarious and teased me quite a bit. Moral of the story is that I feel like in at least one of these cases I was very clearly sexually assaulted. When I told people closest to me, they cheered me on and made fun of me like it was my fault. Maybe just my own experience, but things like abuse or assault must sound different coming from a guy, even though they are totally serious and dangerous and should be taken seriously. Abuse is abuse. Run, bro. Her family hated me and probably still does. My family stayed friendly with her. A couple of my friends believed me, but that's as far as it went. She convinced people I was the abuser even though I have scars and she's completely unscathed. I've pretty much stopped bothering with women because finding a good one is like searching for a marble in a pile of needles. It's just not worth the pain to find a tiny bit of fun. I never told anyone. They told me after I was explaining what I was going through. Victims of emotional abuse, gaslighting, are essentially convinced that they are in the wrong and that they aren't actually being abused. Mine was so rough that in the end, she actually divorced me. I couldn't even muster the strength to walk away on my own. She later realized she made a huge mistake, great for me, because she had thought that maintenance, alimony was locked in. I had just gotten a brand new job pulling us out of some financial troubles, and 2 months into it she divorced me. During the court proceedings she learned that it was adjustable and only for a couple years, where she thought it was not adjustable and permanent. And #X200B. Since then, since it was emotional abuse, I have never had someone be unsupportive when I tell them of this. Physical, sexual abuse is a whole other animal, and I am so sorry to anyone who has suffered through that and has been ignored or belittled for it. When I told my dad about my sister sexually abusing me as a child, frankly having an emotional breakdown in his living room, well, to this day he says he doesn't remember us having that conversation. When I told my mother about it, she simply asked, "Did I abuse you?" And when I said no, she got out of the car. To be clear, my sister spent a year flashing me, getting me to play strip poker, etc., culminating the last night it happened when she came in my room, put my hand in her panties on her vagina, and placing my other hand on her breast. I pretended to be asleep, so she left, but I'm convinced that had I responded she would have attempted to rape me or actually raped me. The police made me leave my own apartment for the night. They also told me I would go to jail too if she said I hid here, even with no evidence and it being an obvious lie. People are always on the side of those who tell the story. In my case there were many people who have been supportive, but there always been that thing where especially women are trying to put bit of a blame on me, saying it was my fault because I should behave this or that way to not provoke things. And it's not that I have done any harm to my ex. We weren't meant for each other's, but with all that shit she have done to me, there was loads of shit she accused me of to excuse her behavior. And some women bought that excuses easily. No one believed me, so I moved away. Just deleted all forms of social media. Got a new job right away before the Rona that pays great, and I just live by myself in a small cabin with good internet connection. I've never felt so stress-free in my life. Apparently she went berserk on FB, showing her true colors after I left. Then everyone believed me. I was told to walk away from the relationship. I counted my losses, and left. I lived with her and was only able to pack about a quarter of my things, not even. I lost perhaps about $4,000 worth of stuff. From an electric bike, my Xbox, 2 6-feet shelves worth of DVDs and games, clothing. I had a buddy who was willing to let me sleep in his couch. I considered homelessness though. I also remember abandoning an Oz of pot there too. She obsessed over my income and I lost years worth of savings. If this is happening to you, fucking run. It may suck at first, but it is relief. Tried saying I didn't feel like it. Tried saying no, tried saying I don't have a condom, and eventually just went along with it. What's there to tell and who would care? Thanks for watching. See you later.